The 2022 financial statements are in, and as everyone is waiting for the outcome of the Budgetcap analysis, Formula One CEO Stefano Domenicali is particularly nervous about the situation. The accusations made by the Red Bull team principal, Christian Horner, imply that the sanctions for exceeding the cost cap are insufficient to prevent some teams from continuing to spend excessively. The penalty for breaching the cost was not a deterrent, rather it was just a minor inconvenience, like getting a parking ticket in Monaco. Could we have another scandal on our hands? Let's find out. The cost cap first became effective in 2021. The initial budget was set at $175 million and was worked out before the pandemic struck. However, it was reduced to $145 million after the COVID-19 pandemic ruined the 2020 season and put some teams in a dire financial situation. For the seasons of 2022 and 2023, the amount was intended to be further decreased by $5 million, with subsequent inflationary adjustments only. That said, those adjustments have already started to be made on account of the massive price increases that hit the global economy in 2022. This cap only applies to certain expenses, and teams are still allowed to spend additional money on marketing and hospitality. However, any amount spent beyond the budget cap will result in penalties and fines. This has been a significant change for the sport. Last year, Red Bull was found to have breached the 2021 cost cap. The FIA determined that they had overspent by slightly more than 1.6% of the cap. They were slapped with a $7 million fine and 10% reduction in this year's aerodynamic testing time. However, that penalty and fine for the cost cap violation have drawn criticism from fans and some team owners who feel that it was too lenient. Many argue that the fine was a mere slap on the wrist for a team that has some financial backing to easily absorb such a penalty. Additionally, some have raised concerns that the reduction in the aerodynamic testing time won't have a significant impact on Red Bull's performance this season. Ferrari team principal Frederick Vasseur has added his voice to the criticism, calling Red Bull's fine very low and insufficiently severe to have placed a true penalty on the team. Here's what he said. I think it wasn't a penalty. It was very low. If you consider that basically we will improve a bit less than 1 second over the season in terms of aero, you get the penalty of 10% of this. It's 1/10. And as it's not a linear progression, it's probably less. And you're allowed to spend this money somewhere else. But it means that for me, the penalty is marginal. I'm convinced that the penalty was very, very light. The Frenchman also brought up to the potential technological advancements that they might have made through excessive spending, as he emphasized Red Bull's DRS system as a key benefit and urged closer examination to learn how they accomplished it. Although the decrease in the aerodynamic testing time was intended to be an obstacle, Red Bull has come out of this season stronger than ever. Vasseur also said this. If you consider the rate of development that we have during the season, if you consider the fact that you have a 10% balance at the end, it's not something linear. You're also putting on the performance. Then that you can spend what you're saving on the wind tunnel, you can spend it somewhere else on the weight saving, and so on. I'm not sure that the effect is mega. And if you consider that you have an advantage at the beginning of the season because you spent more the year before, I don't want to say that they didn't do a good job, because I honestly think that they did do a very good job on the car. I'm not trying to find an excuse at all. It's not this, but if you ask me if the penalty is too light, I say yes. They have a mega big DRS effect, bigger than everybody else. We have to understand how they're able to do something like this. I think it was probably even more obvious last year, but we compensated for part of the gap. But we still have to improve on this. The slap on the wrist fine for Red Bull prompted calls for a harsher penalty system that would actually make teams dread going over the budget and violating the cost cap. A majority think that because the other teams were not sufficiently discouraged by the punishment to stay within the budget limit, there may be more overspending in the future. Wait, that might have happened already. According to Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko, the 2022 financial analysis will be even more dramatic than the 2021 analysis. Earlier in the 2022 season, the FIA approved the modest increase to the budget cap, which was in response to a campaign by some teams, including Red Bull, to have the cap raised in light of the unprecedented level of inflation. However, Marko claims that it was impossible to fully estimate inflation, particularly when it came to energy costs, and as a result, several of their F1 competitors might have breached the cost cap. Horner shared similar sentiments to those of Marko. According to Horner, 6 teams faced the threat of the cost cap breach in the 2022 season. A danger for 2022 is that there could be 6 teams in breach of the cap. Energy prices have been increasing exponentially, but thankfully, we've been protected from that. There is that chance that several teams, many of which have started it during F1 commission meetings, will break the cap this year. We do not believe that we will break the cap in 2022, but these penalties set a precedent for the future, Horner said. The cost cap was introduced to ensure that the sport remains financially sustainable for all teams, big and small. Before the cap was introduced, wealthier teams had a significant advantage over their smaller counterparts, leading to an imbalance in competition within the sport. The cap aims to level the playing field and promote closer racing by limiting the amount that teams can spend on certain areas of their operation, such as research and development, personnel, and travel. It also aims to make the sport more attractive to potential new teams and investors by reducing the financial barriers that are required to enter. The review of the 2022 financial statements has already started. And as we all wait for the final results, Domenicali cannot help but feel a sense of unease. I'm more than nervous. I'm pretty sure that everyone understands now what the effect is, that there's a breach, and I totally agree that the focus will actually be very big. I think that this is a point of attention mainly for the credibility and to check if everyone is respecting the rule, but it has to be done earlier than later, Domenicali explained to Sky Sports. He knows that the integrity of the sport is at stake and that the outcome of this analysis could have far-reaching consequences. The FIA has been working hard to ensure that the cost cap is enforced fairly and effectively, but if Horner's accusations are true, it could be a major setback. The sport has already been rocked by one of the biggest scandals of the last year after the findings surrounding the 2021 cost cap breach were released. Last year, there were criticisms about how long it took for the accounts of the team to be confirmed as compliant or not, with Red Bull having been found to be in violation of the 2021 budget cap when the 2022 season had already passed its halfway point. To prevent a repeat of last year's debacle, Domenicali put in place a more rigorous monitoring system, which involves increased scrutiny of team spending and is determined to ensure that the analysis process is done in a timely manner and that any breaches of the cost cap are dealt with swiftly and effectively. He added, "We are discussing, and this is up to the FIA, to ensure that the inspection and certification take place much faster. Because the consequences, if some teams exceeded, then it must be taken correctly and in the shortest possible time to be more credible. We can see other sports facing financial regulations with, in my view, too long of reaction times, and that's not good." The expected time for the compliance certification is sometime in June, July, or thereafter. With the new monitoring system in place and a commitment from Domenicali to swift and effective action, I hope that the process will be smoother and more efficient than last year. And it remains to be seen what the outcome of the budget cap analysis is going to be and whether Horner's accusations hold any weight. But if it's true that many teams weren't operating within the set budget cap, that'll definitely undermine its effectiveness. It's clear that the FIA is taking the situation seriously and understands the potential consequences for the sport and its integrity as a whole. So maybe we'll see a harsher penalty to ensure no further breaches. The 2021 cost cap breach scandal was a major setback for Formula One, and another one could have far-reaching consequences. We're just gonna have to wait and see what damn results are, I suppose. Well, what do you think about the claims made by Horner? Are there any teams that you think may have violated the 2022 cost cap? Share with us in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more amazing F1 content. Bye for now.